Good afternoon, welcome to Germany for qualifying for a Grand Prix weekend that has all the ingredients to be something rather special. A clutch of world champions, an incredibly tight title battle and some suspect decisions on and off the circuit. But as far as the local fans here are concerned, well, there are 6 very different reasons to turn up and be excited this weekend.
We are young. We are passionate. We are dedicated. We are hungry. We are fast. Very fast. We are winners. We are German.
Sebastian Vettel, Timo Glock, Adrian Sutil, Nico Rosberg, Nico Hülkenberg.
We are here because of one man.
Schumi!
Hi, it's Michael Schumacher.
So 5 young German drivers, including a bona fide title contender, all coming here to enjoy this kind of adulation that one man in particular has enjoyed for the past few years here in the heart of the Rhine Valley. 2 weeks ago, the home comforts were all ours. Silverstone did us proud, but there's precious little time for reflection. Formula One waits for no one, and stop 11 of the year is in the southwestern corner of Germany, in the heart of the lush green state of Baden-Württemberg. The Hockenheimring, once famous for the action it provided on 2 wheels, is now a much-loved part of the 4-wheel fun in Formula One. It's changed over the years, but its ability to entertain hasn't been diminished. And that's the reason F1 fans from across Europe make the pilgrimage here. The odd Italian, British or Polish flag can be spotted, but they're really here to cheer on the German drivers. Spoiled throughout the Schumacher years, will they still be smiling come Sunday evening? And after today, it's straight to Hungary next weekend, then 2 special races to finish off the European season in Spa and Monza before the bright lights of Singapore beckon as 2010 reaches its crescendo. And as ever, I'm here alongside David Coulthard and Eddie Jordan. And actually, as I was reading that and thinking, hold on, we've got 3 races left in Europe. What's happening to this season, EJ? It's disappearing.
Well, it's so exciting. I think it's just gone in a blur, like most of the races are. And no one has a clue who's going to be on pole position today, least of all who's going to win tomorrow. And, you know, that's why it's so exciting. That's why these races are rolling by just into a blur.
And different tracks, different circuits, different reasons to question what's going to happen. And I think this weekend, one of the big questions is the weather. We've had spots of rain in the last few minutes, and so far this season, rain on qualifying day has thrown up some incredible results, hasn't it?
Well, it is. It's one of the more difficult challenges for the team and the drivers. Not only have they lost the chance to really hone their car on slick tyres, if it is in fact going to be a dry qualifying or race, they've also got a restriction on the amount of wets and intermediates that they have. So they've been trying to make one set of inters and one set of wets during the practice session last, which is incredibly difficult to do.
Looking forward to this one, Eddie?
I think Germany is always a pivotal race. That and the British Grand Prix. These 2 races often form who's going to be the real protagonist towards the end of the season. I love Germany, always have. Coming on the back of Silverstone, which was a huge triumph for there. Let's hope this matches up to the same.
OK, well, you can see just behind me here in the pit lane, the Red Bull garage. As far as Saturdays have been concerned, they have been the dominant team. However, the same can't be said when the race rolls around. And 2 weeks ago in Silverstone, for these boys, it was the same old story.
The lights go out and we move away. Webber makes a charge, but so too does Vettel. Look at the 2 wheel-to-wheel, and Webber's got into the lead. Puncture, right rear. He's got a puncture. Oh, and Vettel's got off. He's rejoined, but Webber's streaking clear, and Vettel's way down the field, almost coming to contact there. He's having to take the escape road, but Webber's clear. What a start at Silverstone. Look at that wheel-to-wheel. Drive-through penalty.
He will be seething in that Ferrari.
That was Sutil going past Pedro de la Rosa, who's lost something of his rear wing.
Safety car is out. I would think that's for the debris down Hanger Straight. is engineering him onto the grass, but Vettel's still charging through. He's got the line into Brooklands. Racecraft is definitely a bit rusty for Michael Schumacher, but Vettel is on a charge. Oh, and he's up the inside as Vettel, he's barged his way through.
He's done it. Vettel is through then, up into 7th place. What a recovery, because he was at the back of the field. There is the checkered flag for Mark Webber. He was seething in qualifying yesterday, but he's successful on Sunday, and he's won at Silverstone.
Well done, Mark, you drove very well today. Great job. You won the British Grand Prix. Well done.
Fantastic, guys. Not bad for a number 2 driver. Cheers.
Mark Webber has a message for Red Bull. For anyone else who cares to listen, I'm a championship contender, whether you like it or not.
Well, we'll discuss relationships in Red Bull in depth in just a few moments, but perhaps that weekend was worth a little bit more than just 25 points to Mark Webber. But you can see we're here at McLaren, all the body work out behind us. The guys are waiting to stick that on the cars before sending them out for qualifying. And in terms of last weekend, and this team in particular, Eddie, it sort of feels like McLaren have sidestepped a punch again. They weren't the quickest, but they got loads of points.
Well, I don't know how long this is going to last for. McLaren have been extraordinarily lucky, in my view, or fortunate, whichever the word you want to use. Really, from Monaco, they were poor in Monaco, we saw that, but then they've capitalised. They've had a couple of 1-2s. Last weekend was a miracle for them to finish 2nd and 4th in a situation where they really clearly weren't quick enough to be in that position, but they capitalised on other people's expense. OK, so we just saw that they're in charge as far as the constructors are concerned. And if we have a look at the drivers' standings, we can see that Lewis Hamilton, he may have had a great drive last weekend, taking a tough car up to 2nd, but he cannot relax, can he? What's the pressure like on him at this stage, do you think?
Well, he's won a World Championship before, so I've got to imagine he's slightly more relaxed than it would have been a couple of years ago. But it is remarkable that they find themselves at the top of both drivers and constructors when they haven't had the quickest package. But what they do have is a great deal of experience, strength and depth, and they've been picking up the points. And, they've had a very reliable car, and obviously they've been trying to close that gap to Red Bull, which we've seen in qualifying.
The dangerous thing, Eddie, is they can't keep on relying on other teams having errors. They've got to find their own performance and race their own race, haven't they? But
they've also another added problem, and that is every time they come with an update and an upgrade, the drivers don't seem to like it, and the correlation between the simulation that they do in the factory and that on the track side doesn't seem to be working together, and that is a problem that they cannot afford to rest. If they're going to win the Constructors' Championship or their drivers are going to win the World Championship, they need to get their act together quickly, because they are clearly not the quickest team. OK, we'll stay there just for a moment, boys, as I make my way down here, because, as Eddie said, at the moment they're not the quickest team. By all accounts, this is the quickest team, and you can see these guys getting ready for what they tend to do on a Saturday. They work away on the car, they do what they do, and then the car takes pole position. Hopefully in a couple of moments we're going to be joined by Christian Horner, but we decided to get the man who's done more miles in a Red Bull racing car than anybody else to take a look at where this team are now after the Silverstone weekend and where they go from here.
I think on reflection, Red Bull will be disappointed the way the season's unfolded. They have had the quickest car, but they haven't been able to convert that into as many wins as they would have liked. 9 poles and 5 wins is a great ratio in anyone's book. Of course, you would prefer to have 9 plus 9. Shock horror, there's rivalry in Formula One. Whoever would imagine that, and especially between teammates, of course, that's the first person that you have to beat. The only guy that's got the same car as you. So as you look at the season unfolding, if we go back to Malaysia, I think that was a sort of key moment in the battle between Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber.
And Vettel has got the jump on his teammate already.
And Mark will be angry with himself there. He opened the door and Vettel just walked straight through it.
That was the point, I think, that Mark realised he really has to fight for this championship. Obviously, the most difficult moment for Red Bull was the incident in Istanbul.
Oh, did they come together? What was going on there? Extraordinary.
Immediately after that, there was the Austrian side saying it was Mark's fault. There was the British side saying it was a racing incident.
There would probably be a difference of opinion until we go to our graves.
It really did show for the first time the growing pains of being a new team into the battle for the World Championship. Silverstone was the most intense part of the battle within the team. There was 2 wings that were updated that gave more improvement and performance, but unfortunately one of them was damaged during the morning Saturday practice session. A decision was taken by the management to give it to the championship leader for the qualifying and the race, which meant Sebastian Vettel was favoured over Mark.
There is the checkered flag for Mark Webber. He was seething in qualifying yesterday, but he's successful on Sunday, and he's won at Silverstone.
Fantastic, guys. Not bad for a number 2 driver. Cheers.
Do you think your manager's smiled now?
From time to time we all say things that on reflection you would regret saying, that are not going to be in the best interest of the team. But what remains an open question is Mark's strategy going to be the strategy that ultimately allows him to find the balance to really battle Sebastian for this championship? It is a very, very difficult job to try and keep two motivated drivers happy within the same team, because if you have a 1-2, the team are delighted, but the success of the driver who won is the failing of the guy who finished second. I don't think for one moment Christian would prefer to have a number 1 and a number 2 driver, because he's been around racing long enough to know that you cannot put all your eggs in one basket. Ultimately, it's the right way to go racing, and it's what we want to see. We want to know who are the better drivers, who are the guys that in an ideal world where all in the same car are going to be the ones that win the World Championship.
Well, it's not like Christian Horner to stand us up, and we were worried for a moment that you wouldn't put in an appearance. I thought perhaps you'd finally had enough of Eddie Jordan this season.
No, I was just speaking to the boss, actually, who's just arrived, so sorry I'm late.
OK, so you're standing here. We saw Helmut Marko loitering at the back of the garage a moment ago. Dietrich Mateschitz is obviously knocking around as well, as you just alluded to. Atmosphere. How is the atmosphere in Red Bull with all the bosses around?
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, we're focused on the qualifying session. I mean, obviously the weather's been a bit miserable so far, but you know, both guys have been quick and the cars are running well. Sebastian, that little bit of extra pressure this weekend as his home race, but you know, so far he's coping with that well, and Mark's determined to get his second German Grand Prix victory under his belt.
Christian, how are you coping? Because let's look at the situation. You're going to manage the expectations going forward, but how sure are you that this is not going to rear its ugly head again?
I'm very sure. You know, we got a great team, and you know, we sat down after Silverstone, and you know, I spoke with both drivers, and you know, the opposition are the other 11 teams. It's not internally, and you know, sometimes I have to make difficult decisions, which both drivers appreciate. But you know, so far, thankfully, those decisions have served the team reasonably well, and you know, we're just going to keep pushing, keep focusing on each weekend, and do the best job we can.
OK, so you've got a driver over here who's happy to take a part from his teammate. You've got another driver who doesn't mind airing his dirty laundry in public. How concerned is Dietrich, as he's here this weekend, that it's good to have two drivers that are desperate to win the title, but it mustn't become destructive?
Well, it mustn't, but you know, nothing is bigger than the team at the end of the day. Both drivers, you know, drive for the team, are contractors to the team. And, you know, Silverstone was one of those difficult decisions. And, you know, but the data we got from Silverstone has enabled us to, you know, develop, you know, further here and try and keep that performance momentum. So, you know, one of those things, but, you know, we feel that we're in good shape.
Christian, a question I feel I have to ask you, and that is, you went to great pains to explain to the public that in the event of an upgrade or an update, that you would always side with the person leading the championship. My question to you is, on that basis, are we to believe or understand that there'll be no upgrades while Mark Webber is leading the championship?
Oh, good old EJ.
Yeah, very good. And I was going to ask if he was at a funeral, but no, I mean, basically, we've got a very clear strategy going forward. If you know, that we found ourselves in the same position, then exactly the same criteria would apply. So it's very unusual that we, you know, to end up in the circumstances that we were just before quali at Silverstone. If that situation arose this weekend with Mark Webber as a points leader, you know, absolutely the same criteria, right? Mark knows that, Sebastian knows that, and they're both comfortable with it.
Okay.
So there will be new upgrades then?
There's always new upgrades.
Yeah. Parts were seen coming into the paddock actually late on Thursday. How confident are you about today?
It's going to be tight. I mean, for me, the Ferraris look very quick. You know, obviously McLaren had an incident with Lewis yesterday, but they've seemed to recover pretty well. But it's I think, going to be a really tight and exciting qualifying session, and hopefully the weather won't be a factor. But yeah, we believe we're in pretty good shape. Okay, I'm sure you'd like a good weekend with the boss around. Thank you very much for joining us, and maybe we'll speak to you once again after the podium celebrations this weekend. All right, nice to chat. Thanks very much, Christian. Speak to you very soon. And I'm sure that Christian will be pleased to know that it's now time for the news with Ted Kravitz. And this week, Red Bull are not the headline.
Lewis Hamilton's preparations for qualifying have been compromised after this crash in yesterday's practice. Hamilton only managed 10 laps in the dry on Friday when Red Bull and Ferrari topped the timesheets.
Had an oversteer moment which I tried to correct and didn't correct it well enough or whatever, and put me off onto the grass. And when I was on the grass, I was just a passenger and took all 4 corners pretty much off.
Meanwhile, Hamilton has come out on Mark Webber's side in the Red Bull front wing controversy.
For example, one weekend we have components and I break mine, for example, and Jensen still has his car. I would never ever dream or even contemplate taking something from his car and put it on mine. I just wouldn't feel right for me.
McLaren have made their new exhaust-blown diffuser work at this race, but Jensen Button knows he has to make it work for him in qualifying.
Hopefully have a much better result here in qualifying so that I can fight out at the front here in Germany, because it's, you know, we're over halfway through the season. It's nice to be near the front and part of the group fighting for the championship, but I want to get a couple of really good results from here on.
Button also has to worry about Ferrari, who are looking strong here with Felipe Massa and Fernando Alonso.
Everything is working fine. The new parts of the car are working fine as well, so we are happy, confident.
There's been another driver change at Hispania. Karun Chandok does not race this weekend, as Bruno Senna returns alongside Japanese driver Sakon Yamamoto.
The team gave me an opportunity at the start of the year as a rookie to come into Formula One, and I have to support their decision at this time, because that's how you play the team game.
Renault have told Vitaly Petrov that he needs to score points consistently if he wants to keep his race drive next year.
We sit down on the table. I said, okay, my opinion, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. They said, okay, this is wrong from your side, and so we just discussed.
Meanwhile, teammate Robert Kubica brought F1 to 140,000 fans in Poznan last weekend, the Pole driving his race car for the first time in his home country.
Actually, only one racetrack we have in Poland, so I think the 10 laps we did with F1 car, they enjoy it and they had good memories.
Rubens Barrichello's been celebrating becoming the first F1 driver to beat the Stig's time in a reasonably priced car. Williams presented Rubens with this piece of Top Gear.
It's a lovely thing. You know, I've been told that the Stig is after me, but up to now I can wear the shirt just saying that I beat him.
And finally, the long-awaited Ayrton Senna documentary is expected this autumn. The film tells the story of Senna's racing life, from karting through to his time with Toleman, Lotus and McLaren, the feud with Alain Prost, as well as the events of Imola 1994.
The family have been involved, they've given us permission to make it, Bernie's given us permission. The main thing is we've made a movie for the cinema. It's Senna, him telling his own story with his own words. We've got amazing access to the footage.
The big thing for us was not just to make a movie about Senna the racing driver, but to make a movie about Senna the man.
Apparently a very, very nice reproduction of Ayrton's life, and they managed to make it sound like if he was doing the commentary on the movie, which is quite special.
Very much looking forward to that. Now, we have been fascinated by the Michael Schumacher experiment this season, as it seems of all these fans here, and you guys at home as well, with opinions seemingly totally divided on whether returning to Formula One was a good idea or a bad idea. But as qualifying is just half an hour away today, Lee McKenzie recently found out that if there's one thing Michael hasn't lost, it's his competitive edge.
Reining is a Western form of dressage, done at speed and requiring plenty of skill. Karina Schumacher, Michael's wife, was hosting the European Championships at their ranch in Switzerland. I was invited along to take part in a novices charity event. This was my only chance to beat Michael in cornering, steering and braking. But he's not a person who likes to lose.
I don't know why I'm surprised, but when I was spying on you earlier, you looked fast.
Yeah, but it's uncontrolled speed, that's wrong. It's certainly a wonderful place to live at. The lake on the one side, the mountains in the other side.
Has it been worth leaving all this beautiful area and location to actually come back?
It's certainly worth, and I don't regret my decision. The reason is the balance of private life and professional life. The proportion of time I'm home and I'm traveling is very acceptable due to no testing anymore. I'm certainly still believing in the possibility that we're going to win a championship. Certainly not this year. From my side, I've struggled quite a bit with the way that the car is, how you say, as a base setup, and that is quite a compromise because I'm known to make everything around me to the perfection and to the style that I like it. And we have to work now to create all this for next year, because it's going to be a painful rest of the year, in my point of view. But you know, I've been through this. I know I take criticism. I know that people put some blame on me, and that's okay. I mean, that's part of the game, as long as the end is what it's supposed to be.
And just tell us about the class of 2010. Are they better or worse than some of the people that you've competed against in the past?
Not really. I mean, look how many there are still around that I had raced against. You know, who makes it into Formula One, you have to be special. Yes, within the special ones, you always have some extra special guys. But you know what, I still count myself to those ones.
So by the end of this season, what would you credit as a success in this season? Would it be points, a podium, a victory?
My only aim is to win the championship. That's what I'm focused at. And whether I win a podium or I win a race, so what? I mean, that's not what I'm looking for.
Well, Michael, thanks very much for inviting us here, and tonight may the best man, or maybe girl, win.
Exactly, the best rider.
Tension was mounting, and even before we'd got into the arena, it felt like a storm was brewing.
Oh no! Is that an omen? It's like a horror film.
I didn't win, but I did come second. Joint second, alongside a very good rider.
And congratulations, Lee Mackenzie, a sterling effort on behalf of the BBC, and Michael Schumacher coming second. I bet he's forgotten how that feels at the moment. But actually, Eddie, you've changed your tune a little bit on the whole Michael Schumacher situation, haven't you?
Well, I have. Partly, interviews like this has made the guy much more touchable, much more human. We never saw that before in the past life. And what's more encouraging to me, I was hypercritical of him coming back to do this, and I said very many times that if I was his father, I'd do everything possible to persuade him to not do it. However, now that he's doing it, it would have been so easy for him to blame his neck, do something else. The results aren't there. It would have been very easy for him to stop. He hasn't done that. He's in fact done the opposite. He's shown tenacity, fight, determination and passion, and they're all things that we see before, but we never quite saw them like the way they are at the moment. So I'm hugely impressed by this.
Great, and he's shown he's relaxed as well, and it was only a couple of weeks ago that David was saying he wishes that he'd driven against a relaxed Michael Schumacher. Let's just walk over here, actually, David and Eddie, to Nico Rosberg's garage, because if there's one guy who perhaps is enjoying being out of the spotlight slightly and revelling in it and picking up good results and a fair clutch of points, 3 podiums so far, it's Nico Rosberg. Have you been impressed?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, you know, I spoke with him earlier in the weekend, and if he'd imagined, I asked him whether he'd imagined being in this position after 10 races, 90-odd points, more than 60 points, more than Michael, and of course he would have bought that straight away because he knows that Michael's such a benchmark. I think that he's really grown within this Mercedes team. The first really true
top team that he's driven for after several years with Williams, and I think that his confidence will definitely grow the fact that he's beating Michael.
And if we take a look at the rear wing there of Nico Rosberg's car, you can see these sort of 2 lumps that have been added on there for this Grand Prix. That's one of their updates, Eddie. And Nico will know 3 podiums so far, and he's driving for a team that, because Michael Schumacher's in the team, they want to make this car so good, and he'll benefit from that.
Well, he'll benefit for a whole raft of reasons, not least the fact that there has been very little frontline publicity. Michael Schumacher has taken that away. The Mercedes team has taken... So, if you like, he has all the benefits. Don't forget that Nico's dad was a world champion himself, so he has a whole host of world champions around him, but no one is expecting him to be leading the team, but he actually is. And I think a lot of it is that there is not the same level of pressure on him as there is on everyone else.
And you drive for Mercedes in the German touring cars. This is their first appearance in a German Grand Prix since '54. They'll be keen to do something special as the crowds start to fill in the grandstands around here.
Well, indeed, but I think that they've been very, very good at being realistic about the chances they have with the season. They know this is a development year. They know that this car is not going to ultimately give them a championship, and they'll be concentrating, I would believe, more on 2011.
OK, well, let's take a little walk, actually, through the garage here. And I always like getting this close to a Formula One car just a few moments before qualifying gets going. You can see the steering wheel there, and Nico Rosberg gearing up to get involved. And Pete, if you can squeeze through here, that would be great, because we need to make our way out to the back, out to the paddock, because whilst Nico Rosberg has got his chance in Formula One, there are plenty of young men who would really love to show they've got what it takes in the ultimate racing category. We're going to chat to a couple of those in just a few moments. Hello there, Jock, all right? Good, he's looking happy this weekend. The car's looking good as well. So I'll go out and chat to these 2 guys. But whilst we do this, take a look at how you can enjoy Formula One on the BBC this weekend, because there are a whole host of ways to enjoy it. And these are those ways. You can press the red button, of course. Anytime you like, you can ride on board with various drivers. You can select alternative commentary and see just how wet it's going to get over the weekend. The BBC iPlayer is available for the next 7 days. You can check that out if you miss anything from practice to qualifying to the race as well. And this is a new feature available tomorrow just for the races on the BBC Sport website. The driver tracker, see if your man's coming up to traffic or where he's going to be released from the pit lane. And of course, bbc.co.uk/F1 is the home of the driver tracker and the home of all this. I'll be beaming live from every single race with Twitter updates throughout the weekend and an exclusive blog on Sunday evening.
Read all of my Formula One post-race reports.
It's not just about commentary, it's about being here, being in the middle of it.
As well as the inside line from down here in the pit lane.
Send in your questions
and we'll answer them.
And you can watch my video blog.
Well, if there's one man who's seen plenty of young stars come and go from Formula One, it's Murray Walker, and we're now here with 2 men who would love the chance to compete in Formula One. Ollie Webb, who races in Formula 3, and Jack Harvey, who's a Formula BMW driver at the moment. Great to see you both, and we can see actually from your, well, you're already looking like racing drivers with your nice sponsored tops on. Racing steps for you, and for you, Ollie, Team UK. Just explain to us what Team UK is, because it looks like they've taken sort of some of the cream of the crop of young British racers, and that looks almost as competitive as Formula One with you guys racing there.
Yeah, exactly. They do rally drivers and race drivers, single-seater drivers, and it's great for us. They take us on many trips to different places and events that teach us things such as media and training, and it really progresses us to hopefully Formula One or World Rally, which is where we want to be.
How do you look at your position now, your career? We can see you here actually being off on one of these military training camps. I remember doing that actually way back in '93, which you were probably at nursery at that point. But anyway, do you view where you are now as just another step towards ultimately making a career in racing, or are you just focused fully on trying to win this championship?
It's a bit of both, really. Obviously, if you're focusing too far ahead, then you're not concentrating on what you're doing. We need to win the championship this year in Formula 3, and we're winning with Mercedes Power, who are doing a great job for us, and that's what we need to focus on for the moment. Obviously, sponsorship and getting further ahead to do such thing as World Series, GP2 and F1 is the ultimate goal. But we really need to focus on winning this year, and we're on our way to doing that.
Well, you're sounding every inch the Formula One driver. The corporate training is clearly working, and I don't want to age you too much, but in 1993, Ollie was 2 years old.
Yes. Well,
okay.
yeah, you have aged me. Thank
Okay,
you.
I thought I might do. Jack, let's have a chat with you. You're racing in Formula BMW, and I think it's fair to say probably having the season of your life, actually.
Yeah, we've had a great season. I've won 5 out of 9 races and had 8 out of 9 podiums, so can't grumble at the start of the season.
Okay, so Valencia and Silverstone are the two standout race weekends for you this season. This is you racing at Valencia. 2 wins there and then a win at Silverstone. What's changed this year to give you this, do you think?
Well, it's my second year in the category, so I've obviously worked on things over the winter. I've got some new personnel in the team, which I think have been, it's been productive having them come back. So there's been a whole host of reasons, really.
David? Remind you of your younger days?
Yeah, absolutely. I was lost watching the monitor there because I was just remembering how much fun I had in the junior formula. And I think it is very important that, of course, your end goal is looking towards Formula One, but you have to really cherish each of these experiences. You're obviously doing very well in the championship this year, but what is your plans for next season? Have you got something in place already? Because money is such a difficult thing to raise, the funding necessary for each of these steps. And, of course, each year it gets more expensive.
Well, I'm quite lucky. I'm supported by the Racing Steps Foundation, and if for next year I got to secure my backing from them as well, so looking to do finish this season well, and hopefully next year I'll be in British Formula 3. But you just got to focus on the here and now, really.
Ollie, David said the trick is to enjoy it at the moment. We'll have a look at you racing in Formula 3 now. Can you find time to enjoy it, or is the pressure to have a good season all the time, to stay on programmes like Team UK or Racing Steps and to get to Formula 1 so great that you're just thinking of the future all the time?
Yeah, especially being young, we love what love what we're doing. It's very hard to find a break, even at this category. It may not be Formula One, but the pressure's there. The calendar's very tight. I'm at a racetrack every weekend for the next 9 weeks. But we do find time, and we need to find that time. And when you are relaxed, it seems to be when you perform the best.
Okay, quick projection. When are we going to see you both in Formula One?
As soon as possible, next few years.
2014, hopefully.
Nice. Have you passed your driving test yet? When we last chatted, you were still having your lessons?
Something cropped up. I've had to rebook it again. So.
No.
Yeah.
Look at that. Winning races in Formula BMW. Hasn't yet passed his driving test. You're aging the man on my left again. Thank you so much for chatting to us, guys. And I know that it is so competitive. You need so much money and it's very hard. But we'll keep our eye on your progress. And who knows, maybe we'll be standing outside your garage in a few years.
Thank you very much.
All right, very best of luck and enjoy the rest of the season. So these guys are looking for their chance, but one man has been given his first full season in Formula One this year, a certain Kamui Kobayashi. He impressed at the back end of 2009, then after a dismal start to 2010, he picked up some points in Turkey, and then you'll love this, he pulled out a really audacious last gasp overtake on Fernando Alonso to finish well in Valencia, and he kept the run going last time out in Silverstone with another strong race. The boy can drive. I'm not so sure about the cooking, though.
And today we have salmon, and I make teriyaki.
Okay, so tell us what we have.
Salmon, of course, soy sauce, sesame oil, this is alcohol, kind of sake. This is salt and pepper, but not too much. Quite a lot of oil.
Very hot in here, isn't it?
No.
I thought that was a CD player. What's this?
It's a rice machine.
It's making rice. What time do you normally eat something on race day?
2-3 hours before the racing.
2-3 hours before the race. And then when you finish the race, you must be really hungry, no?
Yeah, exactly.
Where did you learn to cook?
Never.
Can I do something?
No. Sugar. Spoon.
We haven't done this one yet.
It's not sesame, we don't need.
Kamui, I hope when you do all this cooking, my job is not going to be washing up all this stuff that you're making.
Of course. But they don't have washing machine.
When you're at home between races, do you always eat Japanese food? Do you like European food?
I like everything, except fish.
Except fish?
Interesting. Everything except fish, and he decided to make salmon for Lee. Eddie, it was nice actually to chat to those two young guys. They're clearly so keen to get involved in Formula One, but you can testify how difficult it is to get into this sport.
Leaving aside the difficulty for one moment, let's give credit where credit is due. These were two very impressive young boys. You know, they've obviously, as you rightly said, all the marketing exploitation doesn't get you good manners and good composure. These boys compliment not just our family but to our sport. Well done to them. Of course it's a difficult ride and a difficult ladder into Formula One. Obviously a lot of people are going to be disappointed because there's only 20 odd of them in Formula One. So it's a daunting prospect, but with this kind of attitude, inspiration and commitment and passion, they can get there, no doubt about it, if they're as good as what we believe they are.
Okay, another rookie driver, Karun Chandhok's going to be joining us very shortly. He's not racing in Hispania this weekend. We'll find out when he does join us. But actually, Kamui Kobayashi is a prime example of the fact the pressure doesn't ease when you get to F1. 2 or 3 tough races, and everyone was looking at him wondering if he was going to survive the year, weren't they?
Yeah, well, his springboard into Formula One was that very impressive drive for Toyota at the last race in Abu Dhabi, and then we expected that same sort of performance, obviously during the course of the beginning of this year, but he seemed to be sort of finding his feet within the Sauber team. But he has delivered some great performances, and he's delivered the points for the team over a more experienced driver in Pedro de la Rosa.
Okay, just over 10 minutes to go until qualifying for the German Grand Prix, and it's on a very new and very different Hockenheim circuit to the ones that the drivers used to race on many years ago. And in fact, it was right here 42 years ago when the circuit was 8 kilometres long and it went disappearing off into the trees that one of the greatest drivers to ever grace Formula One lost his life. Jim Clark was one of the most revered drivers of his generation. In 1963 in Spa, in conditions not dissimilar to this, he won the race by over 5 minutes. In 1965, he didn't just take the checkered flag at the Indy 500, he won it by over 2 clear laps.
Jimmy Clark crosses the finish line to become the victor of the 1965 Indianapolis 500.
He arrived here in Germany in 1968, not just as a 2-time world champion, but as the greatest ever, the first man to win 25 Formula One races. And why are we here amongst the trees? Well, in Clark's day, this was the track. It came right through here. And it's interesting, just listen really carefully. You can hear the modern Formula One heroes on the new Hockenheim. In '68, racing was fast, dangerous, and instead of Armco barriers, trees were either side of the track. And it was actually right here, on April the 7th, 1968, just as the track curved off to the right-hand side, that Jimmy, as he was affectionately known, lost control of his car. They believe it was because of a slow puncture to one of the tyres. And this is where one of the sport's greatest ever drivers lost his life. He was driving a Lotus on the day of the crash, and the company produced these black Lotus badges as a mark of respect for a short period after, a stark reminder of how dangerous the sport was and how far it's come since. Well, David, as a young Scottish racing driver, I guess you were weaned on stories of Jim Clark, weren't you?
Well, indeed. You know, my father used to tell me when I was a little boy that famously when Jimmy had done some rallying in the Dumfries and Galloway area where I grew up, he apparently rolled his Cortina or whatever he was driving right in front of where my father was watching, and he tells me he got his autograph on a cigarette packet. But he also told me he was a fighter pilot as well, and I've never seen him fly a plane, so I'm not sure if it's actually true. But anyway, it was great as a young lad to be told all these stories, and you know, he was a real racing hero.
And you know, this was an era when death sadly was commonplace, particularly in Formula One, Eddie. But that was a death that shook even a sport that had been accustomed to losing drivers.
Well, from my own experience, the impact and the trauma witnessed over Ayrton Senna being there and seeing that, because Ayrton was a very special driver, this had the same impact. Jimmy Clark was revered, he was loved, twice world champion. We all know the story very well told by Jackie Stewart. He said, Jim Clark and I, we were like Robin and Batman, and he was always Batman. You know, so you can't get a better compliment than that. He was always perceived to being the upper one in the class. Jim Clark was a legend. What a magnificently nice man he was. Sadly, I wasn't around to know him like you guys, but in many respects, he was a true champion.
No, I never saw him race either, but just watching the black and white footage, seeing those photos is just fantastic. OK, let's turn our attention back then to 2010 and this weekend. Of course, this circuit has undergone many changes over the years, but it still is a place that's loved, not just by the fans, but most importantly of all, the drivers.
Hockenheimring, 2.842 miles, downforce, low. Classic moment. Piquet and Salazar go toe-to-toe, 1982.
And take that, oh my goodness.
Turn 1, because it's so tricky, narrow with high speed, and you have to get the exact amount of curbs at the apex, at the exit, is very crucial here.
From a driver's point of view, it's not one of those circuits that it's extremely difficult. It's a very good circuit for overtaking, so that's why we are all happy to be here, because it opens the door for good racing.
We have a very long straight, the Parabolica, going to turn 6, and then obviously a hard break into turn 6. I think there's an opportunity for overtaking there.
Entry of the stadium is a high-speed right-hander, very nice, because you go from the new part of the circuit into the old one, into the stadium, and it's like a football stadium. Yeah, really, you can feel the energy in there, the people cheering, and yeah, it's always very nice.
You lose a lot of time in there. You can, just gain maybe a tenth on the straight, but lose 3/10 over the stadium. So it's very important, the low speed and the braking stability here.
A home Grand Prix is always nice, to be close to your home, drive your private car, and it just feels a bit different, and hopefully we'll have a good result for them here.
OK, so the drivers are getting ready for today, but one man who unfortunately isn't jumping into his car to head out for qualifying is Karun Chandhok. And Karun, the British F1 fans sort of grew to love you when we chatted in Bahrain and you went out to qualify having done no laps. But I guess this weekend is probably even more painful than that first race weekend. What's going on?
Well, obviously, I'm not driving this weekend, and Bruno didn't drive in Silverstone. The team have taken a decision to sort of rotate the drivers around. They've got 4 of them on contract between Clean and Yamamoto, and it's my turn to sit this one out. So I'm on the sidelines for this weekend.
Karun, when did they tell you this, or was it a big surprise at the time?
No, they've been talking about it for a little while, and they told me that I would be doing Silverstone, and Yamamoto would be my teammate there. And then at Silverstone we discussed about me not doing this one, and now we'll go race to race and decide. So it's not ideal, obviously, as a racing driver. DC would know you want to be in the car all the time, but we're not fighting for points or the World Championship, so it's not it's a slightly different scenario at our end of the paddock.
Presumably it's a financial decision. All the drivers are contributing something to the budget, and therefore they're just trying to spread that amongst you all, because it can't make any sense from a stability point of view to be taking the drivers in and out.
I mean, that's really something the team have to decide. I as long as there's a car there with my name on it, I'll drive it. But obviously this weekend it's got Sakon's name on it, and it's a team decision. Unfortunately, these aren't calls that I can make. I've just got to accept what they decide.
OK, so it's Sakon's name, but your sponsor's on the side of that car, which looks very strange to us. The good news for us, though, is that we get to have you here for qualifying with us. Are you going to hang around and maybe join us between the first and second periods to let us know your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just going to sit with my performance engineer and go through Q1, and then I'll be back with you guys later on.
OK, we look forward to that. Thanks very much, Karun. OK, so the build-up is over. It's now time to see who is going to escape from the first cut for the German Grand Prix tomorrow. It's time for the first part of qualifying, as ever, in the company of Martin Brundle, alongside Jonathan Ledyard.